Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy, can't lift my left arm above my shoulder for some reason, 97. So, just recently, I was playing my new favorite game, you might know it as Devil May Cry 6, when I was struck with a feeling that I had only felt once before now. Back in the first Gaiden game, I couldn't help but notice something about Nishtani's theme, Psycho's Anthem. It's a decent song, probably top 3 in Gaiden, if I had to rate it, but it doesn't really stand out compared to the series as a whole. One important reason for that is the thing that I realized. It's just a weaker theory of beauty. Not just because they're mostly electronic boss themes for Korean pretty boys, but even structurally speaking, the songs are incredibly similar. And I'm sure I don't need to go into detail on that, but I will. Both begin with 4 measures of intro melody, then go into another 4 measures of build-up, and then the song begins proper. Except for Theory of Beauty, the song evolves into the proper melody for the main verse. Psycho's Anthem just keeps the melody from the intro bit and then evolves it halfway through the first verse of the song. It gets a bit stale on its way there, and then the melody doesn't change drastically enough to keep my attention. Though what really kills Psycho's Anthem, especially compared to Theory of Beauty, is that the former has no instrumental diversity. Even going into the second verse, it's just more of the same with a slightly different melody. It still sounds good, but again, it has trouble keeping my attention. Theory of Beauty is made by that sitar and the piano riffs. The piano especially, is such a mundane instrument, but it doesn't have much of a presence in Yakuza 6's soundtrack. And that makes its inclusion here stand out even more than it otherwise would, as such an electronic-heavy song. But why am I even comparing these songs, you might ask? I already said why, it's because they're really similar, come on, wake up. Moreover, it's because there's so much linking these songs together that I began to wonder if Psycho's Anthem began life as a remix of Theory of Beauty. And it's that feeling, that question of, is this a remix? That I felt when I went and revisited the first few songs off the soundtrack to Majima Pirate game. Devil May Cry 6, excuse me. Starting out with the least egregious example, the Mad Dog theme is decent in my eyes. The more I listen to it, the more it grows on me. I really love the vocal samples used throughout. The Screamo stuff is used to way better effect here than it was in Gaiden's Yakuza-style theme. I don't really like the stop and start pacing it uses for the whole song, but for the most part, I'd call it good. I wish you got to hear more than a minute of it in fights because of the way style switching swaps the song, but that's a discussion for another time. For the moment, just give this a listen. Doesn't this sound familiar to you? Me personally, since I'm the Yakuza expert, I picked up on it immediately, and I was a bit surprised when I went out and confirmed my suspicions as to what this doppelganger is. I don't even think I need to explain this. The melody and the rhythm is basically the same here. Some different notes here and there, of course, and instrumentally they're kind of distinct, but these are clearly birds of a feather. Now, on the one hand, this makes sense. You could consider this to be Majima's unofficial theme in Kiwami, considering how often you'll be battling him on the street, since Kiwami adds Flirt with Bomb as a second Street Fight theme next to its own Funk Goes On remix. Plus, there's that little hint of Receive You the subtype in Mad Dog's composition and instrumental identity, not to mention a little bit of flirt with North Star and the rhythmic stylings of Mad Dog, with the stop and start stuff. So this song functions as a big amalgamation of Majima's themes in Zero and Kiwami. I think it's super cool that they would pay respects to this reinvented version of Majima's roots. Am I a fan of this reinvented version of Majima's roots? No. Am I a fan of Majima's character post-Zero? Or post-5, I guess? No. But that doesn't take away from what they're doing here, and I'm fine with this series doing things that are smart, even if I don't agree with them. So, having found that comparison, I moved on to the next song on the OST, because, mind, at this point I was still just listening to it casually. Defiant Strike. I'm pretty sure this is the significant generic battle theme. Man, talk about an oxymoron. Basically, this game's Asphodelos, Daymare, Hydra, you catch my drift. Unlike those songs, this one leans more towards generic than significant. The melody isn't very powerful, and the mix is way too clean to make much of an impact. But this, too, I thought sounded really familiar. At first, I was thinking it sounded like one of Ishin's Coliseum themes. This one is sort of close to it, mostly in the opening. But this wasn't near close enough to warrant talking about it at length, so I dropped it for the moment. But I couldn't get that nagging feeling at the back of my head, so I went and did another little dig, and I ultimately found what I was looking for. You know what that was? Now, this one was a little harder to justify in my head. What link do these songs have besides sharing the same rhythm in their main melodies? And this possible remix sounding way more bland than the original? I'm not even a huge fan of Answer from Gomi Jewel, but I cannot deny that it has way more merit to it than Defiant Strike. It suits its dungeon very well, being in the dank, decrepit slums that is Koreatown and Yokohama, but hey, there's always room for coincidence, you know? That first match was probably purposeful, I'd like to think it was, anyway. But this one I can easily write off as two people reaching the same conclusion. And hey, these two songs go in completely different directions as they keep going. Yeah, this is definitely a reach, I can admit that. Now the next track on the OST is easily my favorite so far. Ruthless Scoundrel, the generic boss theme. This game's Pellagra, Through, more huge, every game since 3's had one. The didgeridoo is a fantastic addition to the low, rumbling melody here, and for once, those stupid sounds that show up in a lot of trap music actually sound sort of fitting. And then in the second half, it speeds up and it gets a lot more intense. It's a great spike in adrenaline. It's too bad I instantly recognized what this song was derived from.
Barracuda.
This one, I can come up with no excuses for. I mean, this came from 8. This is 8. Gaiden, no matter how much the localization team wants to hide that fact, it's literally on the cover of the soundtrack. Why did you people even bother changing the name? Anyway, the only link here is the game, but there's no precedence for making the songs in the side games sound like the main installment it's linked to. 7 Gaiden didn't do any shit like this outside of the one song, which was explicitly a remix of Appassionato from 7. And the Kaito files especially had a very distinct sonic identity compared to base game Lost Judgment. Again, no excuses. This is just a way better version of Barracuda. Which sucks, by the way. I've never liked this song, and I can explain why in one word. Run. The vocal sample is also corny as hell. What a stupid song, dude. After that came Power Unleashed, and aside from being really boring, I could not find a sound alike for it in a previous game. There's probably one in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, though, or some other pirate theme. It still sounds generic. But after that was Hunting Chaos. This one is the Bounties theme. You hear this one while you're fighting little mini-bosses, sometimes with a group, dotted around the map. Makes for a decent challenge, ensures you get a lot of practice with You already know what this one sounds like. This one wasn't even hiding it. And again, this isn't named as though it's a remix. None of the songs I've talked about so far are named in that way. So I'm left to assume we aren't meant to see them as remixes. But they're certainly not 100% original. There's no way that this kind of coincidence can happen this many times on the same soundtrack. There is some weird shit going on here. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something. If anyone has some guesses as to what that shit is, feel free to pitch them below. Maybe this is how they can afford to make so much music in such a short span of time. Maybe these are meant to be remixes. Maybe I'm just insane. Because you know what? I get it. I'm the nitpicker guy, you know? This is some real nitpicking going on here. So I think I'd better talk about some good remixes to balance out.
Whoops, sorry to interrupt there. So I was going into this whole project with the intention of making a video that was like 10, 15 minutes long, something less than 30, which this is looking like it'll be a bit more than 30. So for once in my whole career, that is not what I want to do. And therefore I am cutting this one short, and I'm going to be posting it as soon as it's done, and that'll probably be in like an hour or so, which means it'll be like fucking 3 a.m. So, to those watching this at 3 a.m., hello, go to bed soon. And to those who are watching at a normal hour and are confused by this sudden ending, there will be, maybe later today, maybe on Monday, the second half, the latter 2/3 of this video will be that. And it'll be very different even than what this one is, and this one was already pretty different. And this outro is getting way too long, so I'm going to have to cut it off now. Thanks to $5 patron Jesby. Thank you everybody else for watching. Have a good night, I guess. And take care of yourself.